In the previous class, we were looking at uh, if-else and nested if-else under control structures, and therefore we looked at nested if-else and if-else. I also gave some code. I also shared with you something here which I'm already sharing right now, a code that demonstrates how nested if-else works. So that's where we reached at our nested if-else. Today I want us to look at the last part of the last part of selection control structures, which is switch case, and then afterwards we are going now to go into the third category of control structures called iteration. So switch case. Now switch case, basically switch case works like if else. The only nested if else, the only difference is that it can only pick for a limited number of conditions, and it cannot use logical operators. That is the only difference between switch case and if nested if else. Now let me open a document here so that I can demonstrate this today's work. So this is the syntax for switch case. This is how switch case works. So this is the syntax for switch case. I hope that you can see my screen. Switch. Then you have the different cases. Case 1, of course, C+ is case sensitive. So case 1, you have activities. Case 2, have activities. You have the different activities for each case, and as you proceed, of course, until the last case, which you're going to call it case N. Case N, which will have some certain activities. I'm going to show you in code so that you can understand better. And then the last case is called default. And then, of course, it has its own activities. And then you close the switch. You close the switch. You close the switch. That is the. Oh, it's not shared. Sorry. It had disappeared. Well, that is it. So basically, this is the syntax for switch case. We are having the switch statement expression, then we have the cases. The last case is default, and then the last is the closing curly brace for the switch statement. Now I want to show you in code so that it can come out alive, more alive. So I want to show code and show you how this works. All right. So this is the syntax. I hope that you are having somewhere where you can write or you can type, so that you can have these things. This is basically the syntax for switch case. All right. Let's have code so that now this can come up alive. So let me share screen here. So we are going to have a question, and this is the question. The question is going to say as follows. The question is going to say as follows. I hope you will see. I hope you will see. So I'm going to have it like a comment, okay? So of course I want to have it like a comment here so that you can see what I'm having. So I'm going to say a program that allows the user to enter any number between 1 to 7, all right? Any number between 1 to 7. It then displays the day of the week. It then displays the day of the week corresponding to that number. Corresponding to that number. E.g., if the user enters 2, the program should display day 2 of the week. The day 2 of the week, Monday. Today we're in day 2 of the week. Day 2 of the week is Monday, all right? So basically, it's a program that tells the user to enter any number between 1 and 7. And if the user enters any number between 1 and 7, it displays the day of the week that corresponds to that number. Like if he enters 4, it will say day 4 of the week is Wednesday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah. So basically, that's exactly what the program does. And if I need to add this because it's going to be important. If the number is not between the range, if the number is not between the range, of course, the range I mean 1 and 7. If the number is not between the range, then it displays is not between, or is it within the range between 1 and 7, then it displays what? It should display something like no day of the week found. Okay, so I hope you understand how that program works, as in you understand what the program should do. Okay, so now let's go then now to the code itself and see how that code works. We are going to come here, and of course we are going to delete that. Then we are going to declare a variable. This variable is going to store the user's number. Are you together? So we are going to call it X, okay? Or int day, all right? Day, anything, int day. Then we will tell the user, enter any number. This instruction should be clear, okay? Enter any number between 1 and 7 to see day of week. All right, so the user is basically now this is a program that actually, this is a statement that tells the user what they have to do. Okay, yeah, again, as I said, every time you are creating a program, ensure that you create prompts, user prompts that are clear, that have instructions that are clear to the user, so that the user really knows what they are doing. Don't tell the user enter A or enter B, okay, because the user doesn't know A or B. So basically, you give the user a very clear instruction: enter any number between 1 and 7 to see day of week. In other words, the user knows this program. It just requires him to enter a number between 1 and 7 so that it can display for him day of the week. Are we together? So every time, I will always insist that every time you are having a user prompt in this particular programming or in any programming, when you are having a user prompt, have clear instructions. The way your phone number gives you very clear instructions. It tells you enter pin, so you know what you're entering. It doesn't tell you enter X. You know, for you, you're the programmer, you're the one who has coded the pin to be stored in a variable called X, but the user doesn't know X. Okay, so you have to tell the user, you give the user very clear instructions. Enter pin. He knows, okay, I'm entering the pin. But you tell the user enter X, he doesn't know what X is. Okay, so every time you're using user prompt, you are making prompts instructing the user to do something. Let that instruction be very clear. Okay, and of course that one is generally for all programming, not just C++. All right, let's move on. So we've told the user to enter a number between 1 and 7 to see day or week. So we should allow the user to enter the number. So the number, when it's entered, it will be stored in the variable day. Okay, so look at this. Now we need to test which number the user has entered so that we can know what to display. Okay, so we have now to go into the switch statement. Switch, what are we testing? The user's number. Okay, and the user's number has been stored in the variable called day. Switch day. Okay, case 1. Why are we having case 1? Case 1 because it is the number 1. The number 1. If the user enters the number 1, case 1. If the user enters the number 1, then the program should do a certain activity, and activity is what? To display. So it displays what? Day 1 of the week is Monday. Oh, sorry, Sunday. Day 1, of course, in the Gregorian calendar, it's Sunday. There are other calendars, but then you know there are very many calendars in the world. We don't only have the Roman calendar. There are very many other calendars. And line case 2. So I'm just going to copy, all right, so that I don't have to keep typing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So of course I'm going to change these ones. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Or your day begins on Monday. Mine begins Sunday. My week begins on Sunday. Anyway, so this is what we are having here. What we are having here is that we have told the user enter any number, then allowed the user to enter a number. Now we need the program to determine which numbers the user entered so that it can know what to display. Okay, so we use the switch. So the switch says this: switch, and then the expression being tested is the variable day. Day is what is being tested. So if the user has entered 1, that's why we are saying case 1. Case 1. If the user has entered the literal number, the number 1. If the user has entered 1, then it should display day 1 of the week is Sunday. If the user enters 2, it should display that, and that, and that, and that, right? So if the user enters 1, it displays that. If the user enters 2, it displays that. If the user enters 3, it displays that. If the user enters 4, it displays that. If the user enters 5, it displays, right? So if he enters that, that is it, right? So now I want us to run our program. Okay, I want us to run our program. We will run our program. Just a minute. Okay, then let me run this program, and then I will now show you, after running this program, I will show you the concept of default, where default comes in. Okay, so let me share the screen for the output. So there is out the screen for the output. Enter any number between 1 and 7 to see day of week. So we have prompted the user. The user knows what to do. So I will enter 6. Just that, any random number. It will say what? Day 6 of the week is Friday, day 7 of the week is Saturday. So that means there is a what? A logical error, because it should tell me day 6 of the week is Friday. It should not tell me day 7 of the week. So there's a logical error. Why is there a logical error? Because of the following. Look at this screen. There's a logical error because of the following. Look at this. There's a logical error because of we have had case 1, 2, day 1 of the week is Monday, day 2 of the week is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Case 6, day 6 of the week is Friday. Case 7, day 7 of the week is Saturday. Now, I want us to add this particular statement called default. Default is what the program should do if all these other conditions have not been met. If the user entered any other thing apart from 1 and 7, what should the program do? So in the question, we have said that by default, if it doesn't enter any within the range, if the number is not within the range, it displays no day of the week found, no day of the week found. So default, C out. Default is what the program should do if none of those statements have been found. Okay, so no day of the week found. Default is what the program should do if all the case statements have not been met. In other words, all these conditions are false. If they are false, the user has entered a number which is not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3, and it's not 7. It's any other number. So the program should display that default. So let me run. All right, let me share now this screen. So let's enter any number. I'll enter 4. Oh, sorry, there is something that I've missed to include. There is a statement called break. All right, there is a statement called break. That's why it's running in that manner. There is a statement called break that needs to be included. So let me add that into my program. So after every case, you need to break the program. You need to break the program. Break just does this. It basically ends that. If that condition has been met, it does that and it ends the program. Okay, without going now to the other conditions. Okay, so that's what I had forgotten. Sorry. So we need to enter that in every statement. Okay, so let me run this program, and then now we can see how it runs. So now let me run this program. Have you seen the code? I hope you had seen the code. This is what I've added. Let me show you what I've added. Look at what I've added in the screen share that I've shared. This is what I've added. Can you see the break statement after every line of code in the case? In the cases, again, as I've said, the break statement, the function of the break statement is basically to end that program if that condition returns true. If that condition returns true, it should perform that activity and end that program, and it should not test or it should not perform the other conditions. Okay, so let's run this program and see. So taking note of break. Okay, all right, let me share this screen. So there is a screen. So I will enter a number like 4. It has told me what day 4 of the week is Wednesday. Can you see that? Yeah, and just that the program has to do that. Okay, let's enter another number. Let's enter another number. Let's enter another number. Let me share a screen. Let's enter a number like 3. So when I press enter, it tells me day of the week is day 3 of the week is Tuesday, right? All right. Let me enter. Let me share this screen. Let me enter a number which is not 1, 2, 3 to 7. Let me enter a number like 8. Right? It tells me no day of the week found. Can you see now the function of default? The function of default is basically to do what it's to perform activities if all those conditions in the cases are not met. Okay, so that is how the switch statement works. That is how the switch statement works. Now I want to give you a question now. You attempt, and then we look at it. Okay, so let me share the screen. Let me share screen so that I can type for you. So that I can type for you a question which you can attempt. Right? Okay. Now I want you to attempt the following question. Attempt the following question. Develop a C++ program for a hotel with limited food choices in their menu, where the customer should enter any letter between A and F. Where the customer should enter any letter between A and F, the program should display then display the food ordered and a message to wait. As follows. So if the user enters A, it should tell the customer, you have ordered tea and chapati, and 2 chapati served shortly. Okay. If he enters B, it should say you have ordered egg toast and coffee served shortly. If he enters a choice, if he enters choice C, then it should display you have ordered mandazi and black tea, two mandazi and black tea served shortly. Served shortly is just a message, right? Tell the customer to wait. If it is D, if he enters D, it should tell him you have ordered uh, two smoky mandazi and milk tea served shortly. And if he enters E, it should tell the customer what? It should tell the customer. It should tell the customer you have ordered what? You have ordered samosa, bread and milk tea. If he enters F, it should tell him you have ordered green tea, with hotel choice dessert served shortly. Green tea with hotel choice dessert served shortly. So, of course, if the user enters anything else, it should display wrong choice. Okay, wrong choice. Now I want you to attempt this question. Yeah, I want you to attempt that question, and then I am going to see the code which you have. Now, basically, I want you to really note. In the previous program, we were using 1, 2, 3 because those were the numbers that the user is entering. Okay, like for instance, this is let me just go back here and show you. This is not just 1; it can be user's entry. Okay, so it depends on the user, and so it can be a 1, it can be an A, it can be a B, it can be a something. Okay, so it's a user's entry. Right? But of course, if you are dealing with numbers, we are dealing with 1, 2, 3, and such things, right? So I want you to take note of that, take very keen note of that, so that in the previous one we used case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. So now you have to know which case are you going to use. Here we are not having numbers. So now I want you now to attempt that question. And remember, we are not using numbers for the case. So attempt that question in a very short time, and then you can, when you are done, you can copy your code. When it works, you can copy your code in the chat area so that I can see and then probably correct. All right, let's go. If you have any question also, you can ask. All right, so basically this is what is expected. This is what is expected. Now I'm going to tell the user, as you can see, I have my code there. I was just trying to do it on my own, but anyway, of course, I want to do it with you so that you can follow through. All right. So we will tell the user, we will first declare a variable, and we call that variable choice. Are we together? In other words, this is a choice that the user is going to enter, and that choice is a character. Okay. So then we tell the user, enter any choice from A to F to order any of the following foods. Want to guide the user. That's why I told you, every time you give the user an instruction, ensure that there is what? That instruction is clear. Because if he enters A to F, okay, what is he entering? Right? Like, he needs to know that if I enter A, I'll be ordering tea and 2 chapati. So it needs to already to be displayed. Not unless, of course, there is probably a menu. Well, there's a menu hapo imeandikwa hizo choices, so kazi yake ni kuweka tu letter the choice, but I want to assume that it is all automated. It's in the program, so that menu should be in the program itself. Okay, so that's why now I've told the user, enter any choice from A to F to order any of the following breakfast choices. I think that is clear. To order any of the following breakfast choices. All right. So A, tea and 2 chapati. B, egg toast and coffee. I was just trying to copy and paste so that I don't have to keep typing. C is what? C is 2 mandazi and black tea. I've just copied and pasted the C out, so that I don't have to keep copying and pasting every time. D is 2 smoky mandazi and milk tea, so I copy and paste that. E is samosa bread and milk tea. Samosa bread and milk tea. Then F is green tea with hotel choice dessert. So that is F. Okay. Now, even before we go further, let me delete this. So even before we go further, I also want to make this as a comment. I'll activate it later. Even before we go further, we need to see if this program already works, if it can display what we need. Okay, I want to see if it can display those things the way they are. So let me run it. Good. So let me show you what it has. Let me show you what it has produced. The kind of output it has produced. So can you see that output? Yeah. Can you see that? So at least it does what we want it to do. Can you see that? Okay. So then let me just exit there and continue. Okay. So of course I need to share so that we can have our code. So back to this code. So of course now we can tell the user now, enter your choice. Enter your choice to order. Enter your choice to order. So of course C in. Now I had removed that, so let me return cart choice there. So C in what? Choice, right? C in choice. So then now we can now allow the user to enter a choice. Then we go into the switch statement. Switch choice. So case what? Now we are not having case one. We are using the choices, the user's entry, and the user's entry can either be A, B, C, D, E, F. It can be letter, right? So case A, if the user enters A as a character, so we have to put it like that. Case A as a character, then it should say what? It should say, let's have this. Let me now copy and paste so that I don't have to keep typing. So it should see out. It should see out what? You have ordered tea and 2 chapati served shortly, end line, and then I should do what? I should break. All right. Now let me go to. Let me run this code. I just want to see if it's. Give me a minute. I just want to see if it's working up to that point. Of course, it's not working. You have seen the error there. Yeah. Yeah, now it can run. If I enter A, it should say, all right, good. Okay. So I will have A like that. Okay. Good. So I will just copy and paste this so that I don't have to keep typing, right? I will keep pasting this. A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. So I'm just going to change this. The reason it is in single quotes because it's a character. Okay. That is why the case is in single. In other words, the user is entering a character, so we are having them as characters. That's why it's in single quotes. All right. E, F. Let me go then copying and pasting the instructions from my Word document. So I'm just copying and pasting this. C is you have ordered 2 mandazi and black tea. So I'll just paste that. D is you have ordered 2 smoky mandazi and milk tea. So I'll just copy and paste that. E is that, so I copy and paste that. And F is that. That way. Has my screen share ended? Can you still see my screen share? Are you able to see my screen share or has it disappeared? Okay. All right. Then let me continue. So I've had now you can you see that case A, that case B, that case C, that. So of course the user will have to enter C++ is case sensitive. So akiweka small a haitawaka, but akiweka capital A itawaka. Okay. So it's just C++ case sensitive. There are better languages like Java which can support those kinds of cases, right? Any other case you can code it to accept any case. Well, after that, I have to have a what? A default. Default is what it should say or what it should do if all of these conditions have not been met. In other words, A is false, B is false, C is false, D is false, E is false, F is false, meaning he has not entered any of this. He has not entered whether either A or B or C or D or E or F. So if he has not entered any of those, A to F, then it should say wrong choice. Wrong choice. So default, see out, wrong choice. All right, there we go. So then now we can run our program and see how it runs. Okay, there we go. So let me share the screen. Let me share the screen. Now, can you see that? So enter any choice from A to F to order any of the following breakfast choices. So of course, it gives them the choices and then it tells them enter your choice to order. So I'll just enter, B. Can you see you have ordered egg toast and coffee served shortly? Can you see B is egg toast and coffee? You have ordered egg toast and coffee to be served shortly. So basically that's how it works. Okay. If we enter another, let us provide a different input and see how the program will do. So of course, let's enter E. It says you have ordered samosa bread and milked tea served shortly. What if we enter a choice, a wrong choice? What if we enter a wrong choice? So let's provide an input like what? G, H is wrong choice, right? So basically, that's just how it works. It's switch case is basically it supports for very non-complex. It supports for non-complex non-complex selection, right? So it is not like a nested if else which can support a very complex selection. Yeah, this one just supports for non-complex selection. So that's how switch case works. All right. Any question before we go to iteration loops? Any question before we go to iteration loops? Any question before we go to iteration loops? All right, if there's no question, then we can move on. Let me share the screen. So now we are at iteration loops or iteration control structures. Iteration control structures, also called looping or also called repetition. Now, this is basically how iteration loops work. They support and they allow an iterative action Iterative is repetitive. They allow an iterative action to be performed as long as a condition returns true. They allow for an iterative action to be performed as long as a condition returns true. That is basically what iteration is about. Okay. Now, in selection, if your condition is false, it goes and tests the next condition. But in iteration, it keeps repeating that action it has performed when that action is true, when that condition is true, until when that condition returns false, and then it will go and test the next condition. So it does not go to test the next condition if the previous condition it has not returned false. In other words, it keeps repeating an action. If it needs that condition to be true, it keeps repeating an action. For an if else, if an action is true, if a condition is true, it performs an action once. It doesn't keep repeating that particular action. It performs that action once. But in iteration loops, the action, when the condition is true, the action is repeated for several times, as you will code, as we will see. For several times, it is repeated for several times until the condition returns false, and then it breaks the loop and tests the next condition. Okay, if there is another condition, that is. So those are iteration loops. Now there are three kinds of iteration loops that we are going to use. The first one is called while loops, or while loop. The other is called do while loop, and the other one is called for loop. Okay. So these are the three iteration loops we're going to discuss. Just the same way in selection control structures, we looked at if else, nested if else, and switch. So here in iteration we have while loops, do while, and for loops, and we already discussed them in C programming, I guess. So I think they are not very, strange. All right, let's look at while loops. Let's start with while loops. Okay. Let's start with while loops. Now, what is a while loop? A while loop is an iteration structure that it first tests a condition. First tests a condition, then repeats an action as long as a condition is true. The difference between this and do while, I guess you already know these things. The difference between this and do while, let me just write do while. I'm going to show you each of them so that you can, in the code, so that you can see what we have. And so do while, the difference between while loops and do while, and this one I can actually ask in a question, what is the difference between do while loops and while loops? So the difference between do while is that it first repeats an iterative action. It first repeats a repetitive action, then tests whether the condition returns true. It first repeats an iterative action, then tests. In while, it first tests, then repeats. But here, it first repeats, then tests. Okay. Now, let me show you what we mean. We are going to use a flow chart so that we can see how the while loop works. So the while loop works as follows, right? So it works as this as follows. So the while loop works as follows. So we are having a conditional test there, and we are having an arrow here to show the program has been ending. The program has been happening from top down, then it meets a condition. So this is the conditional test. This conditional test condition test. Okay. So condition test. If this condition returns true, now see what will happen here. If this condition returns true, it has to perform as an action or a set of actions. It has to perform an action or set of actions. Then, now of course, to show action, even if it's input, output, processing, whatever it's doing, we are just going to do that using the rectangle, just to know that this is an action. Of course, in a normal flowchart, when you are representing a normal program, a finite rectangle represents a computation, okay? But for here, I'm just using for any action, whether it's an input, output, any action the program should undertake, all right? So it performs an action when that condition is true. It performs an action or actions. Then after performing that action or actions, it goes back. See what is happening here. It goes back. It goes back into the loop. That is why it is called a loop. It goes back into the loop. It keeps testing for this condition until, so let me have yes here. When the condition is true, then it does that. When the condition and okay, let me just yes or true. If the condition is false, then it breaks from the loop. Okay. If the condition is false, then it breaks from the loop. Now that is how while loop works. Okay. It comes to test the condition. The condition is true. It keeps performing this action and goes back to test the condition again. If it's still true, it performs this action, then goes back again. If it's still true, it performs this action, goes back. If now this condition is false, it breaks from the loop, and then it keeps on with the rest of the program. Okay. Now this is the syntax. This is the syntax for while loop. While, of course, okay. While condition, action, or actions if condition true. And then if the condition is false, it needs to perform some action or actions. If condition false, this is the what you call the syntax for nested if while loop. For the while loop. Okay. The condition is true, you represent it inside the curly braces. If the condition is false, then the action to represent, you represent it outside the loop. Okay. Now let's have a sample program. Okay. Let's have a program, and the program example. write a C++ program, or let's write it for the code itself. So let us go to the code so that I can write it there. So that I can, okay, so we have it here. So I'm going to have it here. So a program increments a programmer value 0 by 1 and displays by 1 and displays the result of every increment in a new line up to 10. Very simple program. A program where the programmer defines a value, a constant value 0. Okay? What the program does, it just picks that value the programmer has defined and then it increments it. Incrementing is adding 1. Okay? So it adds 0 plus 1 until 10. In other words, it will stop adding the programmer value when the last result will be 10. Are we together? So basically, and every time it increments, it displays. All right, it displays the source of the the result of the increment. So this is what we are going to do. So we are going to, of course, we are going to delete this. So I'm going to declare, I'm the programmer, so I'm going to declare and initialize a value x as 0. That's the constant value. Are we together? With x equals to 0. And then I say, while x is less or equal, no, while x is less than 10, while x is less than 10, then do what? Increment x. Do you remember this operator? X plus, plus plus. The operator, this is an arithmetic operator to increment by 1. All together, x plus plus. And then every time it increments, at every time when it increments, it does what? It displays that result. Okay? So it displays what? It displays x. Put together. It displays x. So let me run this program. So let me share these outputs. Can you see the outputs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you see what it has done? It has basically taken the programmer's value 0, and then while 0 is less than 10, is 0 less than 10? True. So if the condition is true, it's supposed to do what? Increment. So it increments 0 plus plus. 0 plus plus is 1. And then it counts, it displays 1. It goes back to the loop. Okay. Now the new value for x is what? 1. Okay. Because it is x we are dealing with. So x has been now incremented. The value has changed to 1. So is 1 less than 10? While 1 is less than 10, condition true, the condition has returned true, then increment 1. 1 plus plus is 2. Then it displays 2. 2. It goes back to the loop. While 2 is less than 10. Is 2 less than 10? Yes. Then it performs. The condition is true. It performs actions. 2 plus plus 3. So it displays 3. It goes back to the loop. So it keeps doing that until 10. So is 9 less than 10? It increments, right? It's 9 less than 10, it increments. So it will do that. 9 plus plus is 10, it displays 10. Is it goes to the loop, back to the loop. Is 10 less than 10? No, then it breaks. 10 is not less than 10. So the last value to be output is what? Is 10. Why? Because remember 9 plus plus was what? 10. So is 10 less than 10? No. Then it breaks the loop. Okay. Any question? Any question that in that? Any question? Any question? Now, what if we are dealing with the user? It is the user that is providing those values. It is the user that is providing those values. How then is this going to work? Let's have a program that does the following. So our program should do the following. I'm just going to change here. A program that allows the user to enter any number. It then decrements that number to it decrements that number to 0. It decrements that number by 2 to 0, and it displays every decrement. And it displays every decrement. So we are dealing with the user's number. We are dealing with the user's number. So the user provides a number. So of course the number should be big. It then decrements that number by 2. It keeps doing that, and it displays every decrement. So we together. So we are going to come here and declare a number, a variable x, right? In text, this is the variable that is going to store the user's number. So we tell the user, enter any number. Enter any number. And of course, we allow the user to enter a number. And then we come here and say this: while x minus 2, while x minus 2, because we are decrementing by 2, while x minus 2 is less than 10, then do what? See out x. No, is greater, sorry, is greater than 0, because it decrements until 0, meaning ikifika 0 haifai kuendelea kufanya anything. Okay, so let's see how this will work. Let me share the screen. You can see if you're very quick there, data lines, you can see some lines that are drawn in your memory. These lines are what you call the bars. Now let me enter any number. Let me enter a number like any number, just a random number. Give me a number. Just pick. Let me pick a number like 15. It has produced an infinite value. So that means there's a what? This is now what we call logical errors. Okay. When a program produces an infinite values, that's a logical error. So that means our loop never ends. So we need to correct. So errors corrected C. So it is important to note those kinds of errors. You go back to your code and see what will happen. So I'm going to have y is equals to x minus 2, okay? While, sorry, okay, let's have this. I'm going to declare another variable y, and then I'm going to tell you what y is about. Y. Let me run this. Oh, sorry, this should be y. Okay. All right, let me run this. Sorry. An infinite loop is a loop which never ends. So I need to work on the loop so that it ends when the value is 0. So that it ends when the value is 0. Well, I'm going to work on that loop so that we can have a more definitive thing in the next class. It's a very simple loop, but there's something that it's missing, and I will identify that so that we can have it in the next class. So can we bring it to that? We can bring it to an end at that point. I will work on that line of code. There's a particular line of code that needs just some few touches, so that we can leave it at that, and then you can have a break. If you have another class coming, you can go and prepare for that class. We are having a class for research for those who are doing DIT 2.1, DBIT 2.1, DSC 2.1, and DCS 2.1. We are having not DCS, DBIT and BIT 2.1. You are having a research class, but we are having a meeting at that time. We are having a departmental meeting for moderation at that time. It's a continuation of the meeting. So we are continuing with that meeting at that time. So I'm going to give other instructions of what you need to do concerning the class later. So let's stop the class at that point, and then we meet in the next class when we are more fresh and more active and more ready to continue with the loops. Is that fine? So let's bring it to that. Hope you will remember in our introduction to loops, and then we are going to finish up the loops in the next class. So then have yourself a good afternoon. We'll meet in the next class.